Good morning, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Megan Twentyman, the UC Brand Manager here at Soft Solutions. Thank you for joining us today. There are still a few people joining, but we will get started with today's webinar, which is quite an important topic to cover. So we're going to address the elephant in the room, which is the recent security incident that 3CX has navigated in the almost month since it occurred. We're also going to have a look at Update 7 and Update 7A Alpha that has been released. So this will be slightly longer than my normal bite-sized webinar, and we will open up all the Q&A at the end. So if questions come up as we go along, feel free to pop those into the questions. I will not answer them until the end of the webinar, otherwise I'll be start-stopping the whole way through. So we'll have a quick look at today's agenda as the last few people are logging on. So we're going to look at the security incident, what has happened and what is happening around that. Then we'll have a recap on Update 7 that went live just prior to the security incident. We'll look at Update 7A, which is an alpha release, just released 24 hours ago. And then we'll wrap up with that Q&A like we normally do. So as we go along, do feel free to put in questions. I'm hoping that I'll address most of them through the presentation, but I'm sure you will have questions. Now, just to clarify, I cannot speak on behalf of 3CX. I can give my insights and my opinion, but I am not speaking on behalf of 3CX. I'm sharing what is publicly available information with you, but I will do my utmost to answer any questions that you do have, and we'll move through as quickly as possible. So, what has happened? I'm sure most of you are fully aware, but just to recap the timeline. So being at the bottom of the world, New Zealand is the first to experience any issues that occur, and that can be frustrating for New Zealand and then Australian partners coming online. Please be assured that 3CX do monitor their systems 24/7. So even if they haven't made a public statement, they are aware of what is happening. They are working on it so that they can actually give a public statement of what they know at that time. So they need some information to be able to comment. I do hear your frustrations and I share those, but it is just part of that global world that we live in. Okay, so it's very important to understand that on the 30th of March, it was addressed by a number of security vendors that there was an issue with the 3CX desktop app. Now, one thing that was very clear during this initial period is that a lot of people are confused by the different apps that 3CX have available. So just to clarify, this only affected the desktop app, which is based on the Electron code. They also have the web client, which is obviously within a web browser. They have the PWA or Progressive Web App, which is like a web window, but it pops out and you can have that auto start. And they have the older legacy soft phone app, which they like to call the backup and the person sitting on the bench. So awareness of this issue was raised by security companies around 7 AM New Zealand time. I first saw it on the 30th of March, and that evolved over the day. 3CX didn't make a public statement till about 5 PM New Zealand time, but Soft Solutions had sent out our advice, which was to follow best practice security, was also to ensure that you stopped using the desktop app and removed it, and focused on using the web client or the Progressive Web App at that time. 3CX then issued a statement confirming a security issue with their desktop app and actually reiterated the advice we'd been giving. They also appointed Mandiant, who are a leading cybersecurity investigation company, and that was all done on the 30th of March in Cyprus time. 1st of April, our time, was when they appointed Mandiant. It was very early in the morning, our time. Mandiant have led the investigation into the intrusion, which is a supply chain attack, and they have attributed it to a threat actor cluster named UNC 4736, which has North Korean nexus or origins. There have been 2 statements by Mandiant with their initial findings and how they have discovered that the 3CX network was actually breached. 3CX we're not even at quite a month, but through this time, which has been, very difficult for everybody to navigate, and we're with you on that. They have released 15 blogs, and they have been running a specific forum to keep partners informed of developments throughout the investigation. They have been transparent, and they have said they will continue to be transparent around that. As you know, breaches go, I feel the communication coming out has been helpful from them. What we know from Mandiant's information that has been released is that the intrusion into the 3CX network was via an employee's personal computer. They downloaded a program from Trading Technologies called Xtrader. And that software was onto their personal computer. It contained malware, which enabled the threat actor to compromise the employee's personal computer. They then stole corporate credentials and gained access into 3CX's network via VPN. And this is tracked back to October 2022. So this is a very planned attack by these threat actors, and that is all available in public blogs. You can read those blogs on the 3CX website. For those of you that are far more technical than me, there is a lot of technical information in those two blogs. So one was released with initial findings on the 11th of April. The second was just released on the 20th of April with more comprehensive information, and that information on how they got into the 3CX network. So what we will obviously see is security enhancements being taken, and that's starting with update 7A. The product itself was not breached. It was the desktop app code that was breached. So it's very important that we are clear about that the actual 3CX product was not breached. The desktop app was. Not great. I totally agree. So the early advice was to move from the desktop app to the web client or PWA. That is still 3CX's preferred options. They have released a new desktop app, which was publicly available from the 6th of April. It is build number 18.12.425. That has all new certificates. It is available for Mac and Windows. The downloads are available within that blog post announcement on the 6th of April. Now, the desktop app has advantages, and we understand why people want to use that desktop app, but 3CX are very clear that their advice is to use the web client or PWA, and they are focused on adding new functionality, which we are seeing coming in update 7A. To those. But for those on the Mac, we know in particular the desktop app is the preference, and I will say that I was using the desktop app on Windows. I have now moved to the PWA, and there are a few things that I miss about the desktop app, so it's taking me a little while to get used to as well. But we need to follow their advice. We also need to ensure that we're making sure all systems are secure as per best practice. So what has 3CX done for partners and their customers? So first of all, they said sorry. They came out very early on in the initial blog post saying that they are sorry that this has happened, as any company should do and will do. And that's really important, that they acknowledge the fear, the pain that partners and customers are having. So what they have announced is 4 key strategies and thank yous to the partners and customers. Now, there were some announcements that have been retracted, so it has got a little bit confusing for me as well. And we have got total clarification from 3CX now. So the 4 offers that they have come out with that partners will receive cash back of 15% on all 2023 sales. Now, this will not be obviously available until early in 2024 because they need to calculate what that is. As we understand it, at this point in time, it will go on to your partner accounts, and they will allow you to purchase renewals or new licensing directly into until that credit is used up. Obviously, for us as a distributor, we would prefer that was transacted via us, and we are in discussions with 3CX about that being our preference, because you're our customers, you deal with us, you don't purchase directly from 3CX, but we'll see how that plays out. It is all revenue from the beginning of 2023 to the end, so 1st of January to the 31st of December. That's as much detail as we know about that. 3CX just released a blog last night which says that more information will come out in about 6 months' time, which will be getting closer towards the end of 2023, but they are definitely proceeding with that. One thing they did announce was giving partners a number of free for simultaneous call pro licenses. They removed that offering in favour of this 15% cashback or rebate because they felt that was fairer for all partners, whether you're a bronze or trainee partner all the way up to a platinum or titanium partner. They felt it was a much fairer way to do it, and so if you were looking for your free licenses, that is not happening. That was the initial announcement, and they've moved to this 15% cashback. The next thing they did was they took the partner targets and they rolled those back to the 2022 targets, which are on the side of my slide here. Now, there is one exception, and that is bronze partners. In 2022, the bronze target was $2,500 US retail value. They've kept that at the lower 1,000 US retail because they want more partners to be at that bronze level. Paid subscription licenses have now been extended by 3 months for free. Now, we run a query, an API query that compares the expiry dates of licenses in our system to 3CX's system. That query, for some reason, is not picking up these changes. It normally does pick up all changes. We're just rechecking the API and checking why it's not picking that up, and then we will amend all of the new expiry dates in our system so that auto quotes will come out 35 days ahead of license renewal like they normally do, and then they will be renewed obviously at that time for a further 12 months, not 15 months, but it is 3 months extension for you and your customers free of charge. Now, we are aware that there are some open quotes in our system that may need revising. If you have a quote for upgrading your licensed simultaneous calls and the quote was issued prior to the 3-month extension being put on, it now means that the prorated amount of that upgrade has changed by 3 months. You still get the 3-month base extension for free, but the upgrade would be at a higher level. So we may need to requote on some of those. For renewals, if you've gone ahead with a renewal and at the same time as we processed it, 3CX added the 3 months, so it's just happened in the last kind of 24 hours, your renewal is still for 12 months, so it adds it on to the end of that. So don't worry, you will still have that. It's just you'll have a new expiry date, which could be quite confusing for people. The other thing that they have done is the 4 simultaneous call free license or standard license. The expiry date that was on the 30th of June has been moved to the 1st of September 2023 for all licenses. That gives all partners a little bit longer to follow the rules that were announced by 3CX prior to the security breach, and that's about ensuring that the license is registered in the end customer's name. It's a unique email address, that you don't have too many for your partnership level. It also gives you time to upgrade people onto paid licenses as well. So all those rules about the free licenses still apply. Now, just a note for affiliate partners, this level of partnership is being removed. It no longer exists. This has been talked about since about November last year. If you are still sitting on an affiliate level and you believe you can get to the bronze 1,000 US retail in a financial year, which to put in perspective is only about 7 licenses or 4 with hosted by 3CX, you must reach out to Sebastian, who is the ANZ Senior Account Manager at 3CX, to say that you're wanting to move to that, and he will promote you into what's called a trainee status. So you'll get a lot of the benefits of a bronze partner, the same discount, etc., but but there is still the plan to delete affiliate partners at the end of May. So we will also be emailing the affiliate partners, and that if it does affect you, reach out. I will be here to help you. I can provide you with Sebastian's email address. We know there are some partners that have found alternative ways to work with some of our larger partners and that kind of stuff. So there are some partner accounts that will be removed, but we will monitor that as well and work with those affected. So just a recap on update 7, which feels like a very long time ago, but it's only a month ago. The key things that were introduced with update 7 were provisioning and enhancements within the admin from the web client. So it's the admin panel. So you're now able to do RPS mass provisioning via a MAC address. You can do DECT configuration, and you can also do manual phone provisioning for unsupported models, remembering that unsupported models means that there is no support from 3CX around those as well. We have the SBC capable phones, which are known as router phones from Yealink and Fanville, and now also 2 models from Snom that were added in update 7. They also extended VoIP providers globally. There was no impact for New Zealand around that, but it is part of what that update was. They have a more generic SMS API to allow third parties to develop and support the SMS. We are aware of one platinum partner here in New Zealand that is already offering an SMS service via 3CX, which is very cool, and we believe there will be more to come. They also introduced the new deployment server. Now, one very important note on the deployment server is that with the security breach for self-hosted, they removed the builds from the marketplaces. So we've got customers that are desperately waiting for them to be back in Azure, etc. This was an intentional decision made by 3CX to remove them, and they will put them back when update 7A goes live. It's now in alpha and is expected to move through that phase rapidly. So like you, we just are waiting for the notification that those have been added back to the marketplaces, and I hear your frustration. 3CX's focus was very much on dealing with the security breach and not making that situation any worse. So that was an intentional decision they made as part of that process in consultation with Mandiant. There were other minor improvements in update 7. So system owners, system admins, and group owners, which you'll know as some of the new roles, they got some new receptionist operations added to them. The welcome email template was updated, and there are significantly more changes happening to that welcome email in update 7A, which is now in alpha. The system owner cannot change their own role and accidentally lock themselves out of the instance. And yes, somebody did it. So they changed themselves from being a system owner to a lower level and locked themselves out. So they have removed the ability to do that by accident. So basically it comes up saying, you can't do that. You must have one system owner, but in better words than mine. Okay, so update 7A alpha. Now, remembering that an alpha is not recommended for production, we do expect it rapidly to move through beta and release candidate and go live as they outlined back in their blog on the 20th of April. They've also announced a new security charter with 7 steps, and it's named EFTA, which means 7 in Greek. I'm not sure if my Greek pronunciation is correct, but that is what you will see referred to around security is EFTA. So that is the new security plan from 3CX. So that's starting with something that I know many of you have talked about for some time, which is the hashing of passwords. Now, they are doing this in a systematic way. So it will start with web passwords, i.e. the web client. In future releases, it will move to the SIP Auth ID, the SIP trunk and gateway. Tunnel passwords will also be hashed in the future. So they are progressively going to roll that out, but they're starting with the most likely way that somebody would, if they had access to your emails, steal some credentials. The welcome email has the removal of password and the config file. It's no longer required. Users will need to set a password prior and consider security here. Like, think about passwords, have a password policy for your customers. consider using a password security tool. You need secure passwords. If they use password or they use their extension number or 123 ABC, they will be hacked. So that is really, really important that you stress to your customers how important password security is. There will be a QR code to provision their mobile devices for iOS and Android, but I cannot stress enough how having a secure password is so important. I'd also recommend changing passwords when we move to live systems with 7A with that hashing, so that it gives you that extra security. They're also restricting access to the web client admin, so those that have admin access from the web client can be restricted by IP. So they used to only have this available for the management console, but as more and more adds across to the web client admin panel, you can now restrict that by IP. So another great security feature to implement when we get to update 7A. So not necessarily security focused, but one of the key things with both the web client and the progressive web app, or PWA, was that there was no BLF panel. So this has been added. This is an image of it from update 7A, and it was addressed as a matter of urgency to get that functionality available for people. So that is there. It is very much part of their focus. There are some great blogs about, how to use the PWA, how to make sure that it auto opens, that kind of stuff. So do check out the 3CX blog as well. So 5 key points from update 7A is backup. Before you update your PBX, ensure you take a backup and make sure you're not saving it to the default, or once you take it off, it's going to go away, especially if you're on Windows. Once updated, all passwords will be hashed. So really important that you know what those are. If you're using a password management tool like we use LastPass, fantastic. The welcome emails will now support that set reset password. If you've customized an email template, there's a new variable to include. You can get the link straight to that variable from the blog. Resend credentials, this has now been removed and replaced with forgot passwords. So it's just kind of changing to what we expect it to be, really. Password security. With the hashing of passwords, 3CX can no longer know whether you've selected a secure password or not. So the weak password warning has been removed. I cannot stress more strongly that ensuring a password policy for your customers is really, really imperative. The builds have been reviewed against VirusTotal. Mandiant were part of that process, and as of the 24th of April 2023, there are 0 detections, which is what we would expect. So keeping up to date, technical trainings, the new materials are starting to appear on the 3CX website. Now, we've been waiting for these for quite some time. We do know everybody's going to have to recertify. There is only 2 certifications, basic and advanced. You can see the overview there. We don't yet have the new slide deck for delivery of these trainings. As soon as we've got that, my team will be sitting the exams and getting ready to start rolling out those trainings. So please bear with us. We will get you there as quickly as we possibly can. Stay tuned to our communications, our monthly newsletter, our weekly newsletter, our LinkedIn group where I post everything first. And I'm also just going to jump across to the 3CX blog before we open the floor to Q&A. Okay, there we go. So this is the 3CX blog, which is accessible from the top menus. You'll see there was a new blog today, which just reiterates the offerings that I've actually just talked about. But I really like this. They had a partner on their forum that was talking in aviation industry terminology that really, really resonated with me, which was you've got to aviate, navigate, and communicate. So basically, you've got to have a pilot flying the ship or flying the plane, airship. I still call it a ship, I don't know why. And then you navigate through the bad stormy weather and you communicate and come out the other side. So that's a really cool blog and it's a really cool analogy. So that one was just released today. You can also access update 7A You can see the 7-step security action plan and all the blogs. So there's, if you scroll down, for anybody that hasn't been there, there's lots of pages and they all start to reappear with the blogs, and there's a level of detail, like things like downloading the desktop apps and getting the right build and that kind of stuff. So really important that you keep in touch with what's happening there. And I do post all of that information across to our LinkedIn page, and then I wrap it up in our monthly newsletter. So thank you for bearing with me through a much longer webinar than normal. Happy to take your questions and try and answer them the best that I can. We really do appreciate your attendance on the webinar today, and anybody that wasn't able to join will receive the recording as well. So let me just pop out the questions because it's a little bit small on my screen. Bear with me a second. Daniel, I knew there'd have to be somebody about the web conference platform. The reason is that we need to do some infrastructure changes internally at Soft Solutions so that the recordings will record and upload to our YouTube, and then the web conference platform will be used for these larger webinar style events. So I use the 3CX meeting or 3CX video conferencing all the time for my own meetings and customer meetings. But yeah, good question. I'm surprised nobody's asked till now, actually. Okay, sorry, I'm just reading the questions and my eyes are getting old, so bear with me. It is quite tiny on my screen. Good question. So the question here is regarding the post-incident versions and why we should trust 3CX with those updates and what assurances they have provided. So number one is they employ the leading cybersecurity firm Mandiant to be part of this process to recheck code, run it through virus systems, etc. There has been a huge amount of work going on because obviously what would be worse for any company, and I'm not talking about just 3CX, what would be worse after a security breach would be to release something that then had compromised security. So, you know, they've gone with the best. They are following through on that. They have implemented more security. Mandiant are doing a full security assessment of the entire system. And that has come back all a-okay at this point in time. But I can't speak on behalf of 3CX. What I can say is that they've been very transparent in what they are doing and who they are using to employ this. They'll also be locking down their own internal network infrastructure, which I knew they'd already done anyway, which most companies have, but they will be locking that down even further because, as we can see, this actual breach came from a personal computer and stealing valid credentials to access the site. Yeah, it's all I can tell you. And you know, my strong urge is that you do take the time to read the blogs, read particularly the 2 reports released from Mandiant, which for anybody with a very technical knowledge, for me who's not that technical, obviously I have read it and I understand the concepts, but when you get into that real technical detail, that's not my forte, but it will give you that level of reassurance, or I would hope it would give you that level of reassurance, which is what my technical advisement is giving me as well. So that's all I can tell you on that one. Okay, will there be an update for the 3CX desktop app, and will 3CX recommend you use the desktop app going forward? So they've already updated that. That's the build that is available now for both the Mac and Windows. So it is available. Their recommendation is going to continue to be the web client and PWA as that technology has evolved. We still have customers, in fact some of my own team are still using the traditional original Windows soft phone app. So all are being supported, and the desktop app, which is based on that Electron technology, is now available as of the 6th of April, if I recall from my slide deck. So that is available and has been checked and can be used, but the recommendation continues to be web client or PWA. People have different reasons for using different ones, and people get very confused between the different apps because they all look the same as well, which can be quite confusing. I won't be sending the PDF version of the slide deck, but we will release the recording, so that will be available. If there was something specific in the slide deck that you required, please reach out to me directly, and I'll see what I can share with you. I love this comment, and I'm going to say this on the recording. Mandiant are who you call when the beep hits the fan. So I totally agree. You know, they are very much in the media for the reasons of their industry lead in this space. And you know, I think 3CX made a very, very strong commitment very early. That was on the first day of this issue being confirmed, and they are committed according to their blog information. So I'm repeating what I have read on their official notifications, that they will continue to work closely with Mandiant as they strengthen everything internally. Now, I think I've got all the questions. If I've missed anything, I apologise. I think I've managed to go through all of the questions. If there are any more questions, I'll stay on for another couple of minutes just to see if anybody's got anything else. But I do want to thank you all for taking the time. As I say, this is a bit longer than a normal bite-sized webinar, but I just really think it's important to wrap it up. Hopefully you've also all seen my UC newsletter that went out last week, which again wrapped it all up, had links to all the blogs. So important when talking to customers to have the facts available to you, because none of us can speak on behalf of 3CX. We can share what 3CX has transparently shared with this as they navigate a very, very difficult time for them. The team there have been working around the clock, and I think, you know, one of the key messages from me is that, you know, their level of communication. And I know for New Zealand, we were the first, and that felt like a very, very long 10 hours. I totally get that, but they were there working on it. I was calling the team at 3CX in the middle of the night their time. But, you know, their focus was on finding out what had happened, being able to send out an official statement. They appointed Mandiant within just a very short time, and got moving. So I think that's, you know, a really key thing as well. And I think that's kind of the level of reassurance that we can take and give to our customers. And as we know, 3CX is a fantastic unified communications solution. They are ahead of the curve with adding technology to the product. And, you know, I think, you know, they are thinking you, the partners, us as distributors, and their customers, and you know, we certainly have stood by them as we've navigated this, and I've spoken to many, many partners with as much information as I have available to me as well. You know, public statements have to come from 3CX. So I'm not seeing any more questions coming in. Again, thank you everybody for your time today. We really do appreciate it. Feel free to reach out to me if there is any other burning questions that you may have, or if you need links to information, or you just need to have a chat, I am available to assist. So thank you, and have a great rest of your Thursday.